And Minister, it is a testimony to your work rate that I've probably seen you more in this House than I have some of the senators that are members of this House. So thank you yet again for another innovation and another provision of support and protections for tenants. I really welcome the extension of the protections for tenants in relation to the COVID hardships. I think that it is to be supported because, to be fair, it is low-income families, who have been disproportionately affected by COVID, working in the hospitality and retail industry. So it's particularly reasonable that we would extend the supports in their regard. I also very much support the provisions in this bill with regard to students. It is absolutely correct that it should be only 1 month's deposit and 1 month's rental up front, a max to a ceiling of 2 months, unless the tenant, by virtue of perhaps their circumstances, choose to waive that. We need to remove any barriers that may become an impediment to someone achieving or accepting their position in a university that isn't close to their home. I think those of us in Dublin have the luxury of not having to worry about accommodation for our young people, but certainly it has been an impediment in the past. I think, Minister, the time really has come, and this was expressed by Senator Éireann, the time has come to commence or to review the provision under that Section 61 regarding a deposit protection scheme. So not just for students, but full stop for all tenants. I have been in before the PRTB with tenants who are trying to get back their security deposit, and they're being withheld for unreasonable reasons. At the same time, I do have an ear and I'm attendant to the concerns of landlords who say, well, 1 month's security deposit isn't enough when you have a rogue tenant who leaves an awful lot of chaos behind them. And I have been assisting a friend a number of years ago who became an accidental landlord and walked into a horrific scene at the end of a tenancy that cost thousands to fix. So a deposit in that instance. But the vast majority of tenants go in and carry out their tenancy respectfully and normally, and it is very much their home and prized as their home. And so at the end of it, it's not reasonable that they have to get into a row to get their deposits back. So I think some system whereby it is banked with ideally an independent entity, so that an independent arbitrator could go out and adjudicate on a position of whether it's due back or not. Auctioneers run it with regard to the security deposits. There's lots of agencies that hold deposits in trust for third parties. So there's no reason why this couldn't be put in, and it would be a safeguard, and perhaps then didn't need to be paid back, but actually could be brought on to the next tenancy and recognised within that. The Section 11 of the Act that looks for a sanction of landlords who breach that Section 19B provision is very good. I think that we should have a whistleblowers provision within this, whereby when monies are sought from tenants under the counter, and we hear anecdotally instances of that, where people are afraid to report it, they're afraid to say, because they're afraid of losing their security of tenure. There should be some provision similar to that, which happens in employment law, whereby if you breach these sort of provisions, then there'll be a double penalty onto you in that regard. So I think that it's important that we make that provision and provide for something regarding a whistleblowers legislation that it brings down a full audit or something equally frightening on a landlord who breaches that. I suppose I'd have two things regarding. I hear Senator Byrne and the real need for student accommodation. I have a little bit of eyebrows raised about that, because in the likes of Dublin South Central, we've had a disproportionate amount of student accommodation built that disregarded the needs of local tenants. And lastly, I suppose I have to acknowledge Senator Boylan expressing her concern regarding the rental income price and house prices in Dublin Bay South. And perhaps I will urge her to speak to her colleagues in in the 3 county councils across Dublin, of Dublin's City Council, South Dublin County Council and Fingal, who since 2011 have voted against 6,000 homes, and that has come out in research carried out by Councillor James Geoghegan. And perhaps it will bring her forward to acknowledge the social and affordable housing provision that is planned for the Poolbeg site, which will provide 900 affordable and social housing, and that is being championed by Councillor Geoghegan. And perhaps she could be unequivocal in her support of that if she is really concerned about Dublin Bay South prices. Thank you.